this is the war you don't want to be fighting. By being all the way out here, you cannot fight your opponent out here. This is not the range you want to be at. Sure, you have a good / serviceable fireball that will do its purposes in a lot of matchups. However, for a person who has almost like the top 1, top 2 fireball in the game, you're not going to be winning this war. Once again, you want to be holding this space. The reason why is because this will allow you to get your raw drive rush if we want a full engage, as well as if he's going to shoot his fireballs, we can try and perfect parry like I already mentioned, right? And it also gives us an opportunity, if we necessary, we can also go for a jump here. Playing at this range won't net you any value at all. Okay, so I was supposed to do Ed today, but Ed pissed me off today, so we're going to be doing Ken today. Let's see the sorts of things that's going on. One thing that I want you to note here is that after a situation where you press EX fireball at this close of a range, you're not plus enough to get a follow-up drive rush, right? If your opponent decides to try and check you for this, then like it did happen, then it's not going to be successful. Now, had you done it a little further out, it has more travel time, more time for it to be plus, and then it will thus allow you to drive rush off of it. But because you were so close to the opponent, it didn't allow it to work. So let's talk about fireballs, okay? In this matchup, it's very apparent that your fireball is not going to match up to his. So what can we do about it? So one of the options that we can start choosing is that we can start choosing to try and perfect parry the fireballs. The reason why we want to perfect parry the fireballs is because if we're successful on a perfect parry, then we get a drive rush and we even get a punish if we're successful, right? And that's kind of the key part. If we can successfully pull this off, then get the drive rush afterwards, then it'll aid us in this matchup, because technically we don't really have a leg to stand on when it comes to his zoning. We can go for the occasional EX, but again, it's not going to be as reliable as going for like something as simple as that, right? Let's just note here that going for DI out of this instance is very difficult to be successful with. So I wouldn't suggest going for it all too often. We have to keep in mind the fact that his fireball does recover very easily, so we don't want to be using that option almost at all. Okay, so let's talk about this segment of offense here, right? I have 0 issues up until this part, but then we went for medium Jinrai instead of light Jinrai, right? The reason why we want to go for light Jinrai is exactly what we saw here, where they mashed out of the situation and then now they're successful in getting out of the corner, and in this case it might even kill, right? So these are the types of things that you want to keep in mind. Instead of going for medium Jinrai here, obviously you'd want to go for an option like light Jinrai. What you can also do is decide to simply take space. Reason being is because if you just decide to take space, people don't realize this, but your light kick actually spaces you out at max ranges. It actually spaces you out from your opponent to where if they try to press their low forward, they get punished. And that's kind of the things that we want to take advantage of if you did not know this. So if you clicked on this video, I'm sure you need some help. Lord knows I did at some point. But here's the thing, you want your favorite content creators to come and help you, but let's be real, they're charging like $60 per hour. You don't need that, but when I got you good. Over on this channel, I do free coaching sessions on Tuesdays and on Thursdays at 6:30 p.m. EST. So what does that look like? I essentially go over your matches. I give you tools so that you can succeed the next time you open up rank. So once again, join my Discord. Wait till I'm live either on Tuesdays or on Thursdays 6:30 p.m. EST. Be there or be square. Back to the video. So we can either decide to go for a light Jinrai afterwards, or we can decide to go for a walk back into a normal, right? We can choose also standing heavy punch if we so choose, but you know, we have a plethora of options. The key part is to stay out of this range and then go for the whiff punish as soon as we see something that's whiff punishable. Okay, so off of this instance here, you got the hard knockdown because of the sweep, right? But what I'd say is that off of this instance, don't be afraid to take the advantage, right? On these cases, we don't have any data on the opponent yet, so it doesn't hurt to go for some offense, right? If they decide to use like EXDP or drive reversal, they're already coming off of 2 meter anyway, so it doesn't necessarily hurt to try and go for this type of option just to see what he likes to do and where he likes the EXDP, or does he just let it rip? Does he wait until like last minute? Like, what types of things that he likes to do? We have no data on that, so let's test him, let's try him out, let's see what he likes to do, and then record it in our memory so that the next time we see something like that, we can bait it out. So this right here was a good perfect parry, right? You went for perfect parry here. This was a really good perfect parry. Then we can go for the punish and then go for our offense, right? That's how we're going to be utilizing this option a lot cleaner. If we're able to master this, then that'll be a great asset to us in this matchup. Because let's say even if you're like incorrect, right, and you happen to have them on block, you're still like +3 off of the situation anyway, and then you can get started anyway. So these are the types of things that you want to keep in mind while you're playing the game. Now, here's where we have an issue, right? You're going for the pressure, you're hitting a lot of buttons. Unfortunately, it kind of worries me, the fact that you're doing this, just because when you're going at this like this, you're not seeing what your opponent's doing. You're just like, I'ma hit you, I'ma hit you, I'ma hit you a bunch of times, and you're not necessarily getting a bunch of value out of it, right? So after this crouching medium punch, this should have been your cue to back up. Why? Because if we back up here, right, it gives us enough time to get out of range and punish him for it. And now that we've kept him here, now we can keep him in this box. What box do I mean? I am talking about my kill box. So that is this range right here, right? If we're unsuccessful in keeping him in the kill box, then it makes our lives a lot difficult, right? Let me show you what I mean. The effective range of his normals when he's in the corner stands to about there, right? The key part is that he's in the corner like here, okay? If he decides to press his standing heavy punch, it's going to go the max range. If he decides to go the crouching medium kick, it goes about there. So ideally, we want to stay out of this range. And I'm going to keep preaching this every single video because this is very important that people learn this on a consistent basis, okay? This is the range where he wants to play. If we're going to enter this box at any singular point, we have to make sure that either A, we're already active when entering, or B, we have intentions to bait. And if we have intentions to bait, we walk in and then we walk out. That way, if they happen to go for a normal, like standing heavy punch, we're outside of the range. This is key to making sure that your corner pressure is strong and you keep your opponent in the corner. Okay, so off of this instance here, you get an EXDP. Not mad at it, no problems. Now the issue lies of how you follow this up. Now you follow this up by going for drive rush immediately, right? Now the thing about going for this option is that if you're not keeping aware of what your opponent's options are, you can find yourself getting blown up. However, there is a solution to this, which is very simple, right? All you have to do is press crouching jab early. That way, if you press crouch jab early, it stops you from going the full distance and you can essentially bait their option out because your opponent is looking for the green dash. That's what they're looking for, right? Another option is to severely delay your buttons, but then if you happen to delay your buttons too severely, then your opponent might decide to go for a throw, and then you might end up getting hit. And then there's also the case that it might mess up like so. So in order to keep things simple, we just go for a crouch jab early, and then we get the punish. Okay, one thing that I want you to start trying in neutral is like you're walking your opponent. I have no problems with that per se. The thing that I want you to start doing a little bit more often is just like, I know it sounds a little bit crazy, but just test their metal. You know what I mean? Like go for it. It's go time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's do it. Instead of just being, you know, stand still the entire time. Like, I get playing neutral, like I'm not knocking neutral at all, but sometimes it might be in your benefit to just like send it at your opponent, especially if you know your opponent does not have drive rush checks. Just going for it, and it leaves you +3 in their face, so whatever they have to do, now they have to hold it, right? Just because you're in their face. These are the types of things that I want you to start doing on a more consistent basis, is that if you know that your opponent doesn't have checks, then let's just go for it, see what happens. The other option I want to show here is the fact that if your opponent is constantly walking back, then don't be afraid to use drive rush, crouch, and medium kick. The reason why we go for a drive rush, crouch, and medium kick is that if we happen to get the hit here, then we get the entire combo. If you're successful here, then you get the entire route here, right? And then you can go for your pressure and then close out. So the key part is that the reason why we want to go for this is that if you happen to go for this option, it gives you all of the benefits of going for a low while blowing up your opponent for going for just simply walking back. So for those who don't know how to deal with this option, I know it's very reflective to go for a parry, but in the case that he does go for a teleport at you, the answer is to check him with a normal. Okay, so off of this anti-air, very good anti-air, but this is our moment to close out. How do we close out? If we're going to drive rush at our opponent, we check them like this. The reason why we go for an option like this is because if your opponent tries to hold up, they get hit and it'll still go into the stun. And then likewise, if they block, then they get hit as well, right? The only answer out of this situation is to level 1. Level 1 might kill you, but it's most likely it won't. Now in the actual example, you went for more pressure, you backed up, you looked for the level 1 because the last time it happened, you happened to get level 3, which was a good bait. Once again, you should use the crouching light punch just to guarantee that you don't get hit on counter hit because you're still dashing. But either way, you went for the bait here, you went for crouching medium punch into the eye, which is a good option. But once your opponents get to a certain point, you know, you want to make sure that you can jail it, because if you don't jail it, this is what happens, right? Obviously, if your opponent tries to hold up, they can't get out of it. But if they decide to go for a grab here, then yeah. Okay, so in this match here, we've been trying to go back and forth with his fireball. Obviously, for very obvious reasons, you do not want to be full screen here, right? This is the war you don't want to be fighting. The reason being is because by being all the way out here, you cannot fight your opponent out here, right? This is not the range you want to be at. Sure, you have a good / serviceable fireball that will do its purposes in a lot of matchups. However, for a person who has almost like the top 1, top 2 fireball in the game, you're not going to be winning this war. So ideally, once again, you want to be holding this space. The reason why is because this will allow you to get your raw drive rush if we want a full engage, as well as if he's going to shoot his fireballs, we can try and perfect parry like I already mentioned, right? And it also gives us an opportunity, if we necessary, we can also go for a jump here if we happen to get a pattern on where he's going to go for fireball. fireball. But by playing at this range here, we're not getting any value off of our fireball or off of any of the tools that Ken has. So we're gonna have to play closer to our opponent in order to utilize this. Playing at this range won't net you any value at all. So he's only shown this a couple of times, but it is something that you're gonna unfortunately gonna have to contend with, right? At the very least here, we should be trying to parry it, even if we're unsuccessful, right? And we're just trying to control the pace of the game, right? Even if we're worried, like obviously the correct answer would be to go for a DP, just so that we can get him off you, right? And then continue playing the game. But like, so if we're being completely realistic, sometimes our DPs are not there, right? And that's okay to say. So sometimes it'll just be better to go for a parry attempt. That way we can get whatever we need and go for an offense from there, right? Just at the very least, trying to go for parry, going for crushing heavy punch here, because it's so variable on when he'll jump at you or when he'll dive kick or when he'll choose an option out of demon flip. It's not advisable to go for this option, right? Obviously it's DP. If not DP, you know, we're gonna go for a parry. Some of them are gonna try and go for something crazy, but regardless, those are the types of things that you're going to see. And it's kind of the things that you have to keep in mind while playing. Unfortunately, you do get caught out by this, but it is what it is. You know, we all understand that sometimes we get caught out by Akuma. Everyone, it happens to everyone. With that being said, comment down below your CFNs and let me know if this helped. With that being said, any questions?